Hey guys, Dan here with this week's TV news and reviews. We've got 5 shows to review for you this week, including the return of an old favorite, Reno 911, as well as some other new shows. But we've got a bunch of news to talk about, so let's do that. Now, this would be the time of year when all the networks have put their fall schedules together, usually the first full week of May. They do like the whole press junket and all of that. This year, of course, is very different because a lot of networks don't even know what they're doing, really, for the fall. CBS has announced their whole lineup. We've talked about that last week. NBC, ABC, and Fox are sort of keeping a little bit more mum on what they're doing. Some of their plans have been announced, others have not. But the CW went forward with their lineup for the fall to start around October, although of course that, like everything, is tentative. But basically they are branding January as their official new season start, and doing the fall as sort of like a holdover type thing, because included in that October lineup is going to be the last 7 episodes of Supernatural, which have not been filmed. They were, they're in their last season. They've run 15 years. Such a great run. But there are still 7 episodes left of that series that they didn't get to film. And rather than just pack it in and say, okay, well, you had a good run, goodbye, luckily everyone is coming back and doing that. And for Jared Padalecki, that will mean he's going to be filming 2 shows at once, because he's also got the new Walker, Texas Ranger reboot on the CW. So that is supposed to premiere in October as well. So he's going to be kind of doing double duty. But in addition to that, they're going to have a lot of their usual summer programs airing in the fall, such as Whose Line Is It Anyway, Penn and Teller Fool Us. That's going to be on 2 nights a week, Monday and Friday. And shows like that don't really have expiration dates. I mean, you can run Penn and Teller Fool Us runs the same whether it's season 2 or season 5. Well, I guess season 2 they have the different host, but any episode with Allison Hannigan as the host will look like something that's just like any other new episode. So that makes sense. And then Whose Line Is It Anyway? Same thing. I mean, there's no unless they're maybe making a specific cultural reference, but they usually don't on that show. So so that's going to be cool. But also, they have accessed a TV show canceled by CBS All Access after 2 seasons called Tell Me a Story. So they're going to basically rerun the first 2 seasons of that show, and then if it does well for them, they have the option then to pick it up for a 3rd season if they want. So they've got that. And then also in the fall, they're going to run with this Canadian comedy show called Coroner and a UK comedy called Dead Pixels. So, first of all, I think it's sort of odd because it's a little off-brand for the CW to even be running comedy. They don't do a lot with comedy, but they do have Whose Line Is It Anyway? So, I guess if they're going to be filling in some of the gaps, why not add a couple more comedy shows to the mix? So that works. And then they've also acquired a property that was canceled at DC Universe, which is Swamp Thing. That was canceled almost a year ago. CW has basically bought the rights to the first season and then will start airing subsequent seasons. I'm not sure if they're actually going to air the first season or not. I mean, it would make sense if they're trying to fill holes, so I guess maybe they have it for sort of insurance in case they need it. But they're going to be producing all new episodes for that as well. And that makes sense because more than half, I think, of the CW slate at this point is related content to the DC Universe, because you've got already, like, Arrow and Supergirl, and they're going to be premiering a new Superman and Lois show in January, so they already have a lot of stuff. And I think some of their offshoots are even DC-related, like, I can't think of all the names of their shows because I don't really watch the CW much, but, well, they have Batwoman, that's DC, of course. But I think there's another one too. Is it not Inhumans? I forget. Anyway, a lot of their content is DC Comics related, so it makes sense they would pick up Swamp Thing. So speaking of shows being acquired and stuff, there are 2 other shows that we're going to see in the fall that have already run on other things. So Fox, for their fall, has acquired a show from Spectrum called LA's Finest. Spectrum Originals has brought us the Mad About You reboot. I reviewed a show on there not too long ago, but Spectrum Originals is hard to find. So there's no doubt in my mind that Fox will get a bigger audience with LA's Finest. And this is something that Fox did back when they first started in the late 80s. They acquired It's Gary Shandling's show from Showtime. In the early 90s, they ran Dream On reruns, which originally aired on HBO. So they're no stranger to doing that. And with things being what they are now, Fox TV, the network, is the only major network that's not already owned by someone. Because Paramount owns both CBS and the CW, Universal owns NBC, and of course Disney owns ABC. And even though Disney owns Fox Studios and Fox Pictures, they don't necessarily own Fox, the television station, so or the television network. So, so it makes sense that they're sort of looking for unrelated content that they don't have to produce themselves right at this moment, and it's already set. And also NBC has done something similar as well. There's a show called Transplant, which is a hospital show that airs on CTV up in Canada. It is the most watched Canadian-originated show in Canada, so it makes sense, you know, that maybe it will translate to us. Now, obviously, they air a lot of American TV up in Canada as well, so it's not the #1 show in all of Canada, but it's the #1 Canadian-produced show in Canada. So, so that will help fill some of NBC's fall schedule. They haven't announced anything else, though, really, for the fall. They've gotten some renewals out of the way, and we'll get to that in a second. But they, ABC, Fox, none of them have actually presented a fall schedule yet, which kind of makes sense because they don't really know what the fall is going to hold. So with that, let's talk about the cancellations and renewals. NBC has renewed Good Girls for Season 4. This is great news for me, one of my favorite shows. They're currently airing Season 3, but it must be almost done because it was cut very short. I think about half of the season was not produced yet. So I don't know how many episodes are going to air in Season 3, but it's going to be a reduction from what it was supposed to be and from what the first 2 seasons were. So I am 2 seasons in on that show. Love it. So I'm glad that's going to be renewed for Season 4. Over at ABC, American Idol has been renewed for a 4th ABC season, I think 19th season overall. None of the talent has signed on yet, though. Ryan Seacrest, the judges. But that's fairly typical. That also happened last season with Katy Perry, Lionel Richie, and who's the country dude? It's not Brad Paisley, is it? I think maybe it's Luke Bryan. Not only am I not a huge country fan, but I haven't watched any of the new American Idol stuff, but I think it's Luke Bryan. But so they have not been inked for deals yet, but this happened last season too. You know, they don't really get the judges on board right away. I think the network wants to secure the show first and then sort of make the deals with the talent. So so that will be coming in. The Good Fight renewed for Season 5 on CBS All Access. And here's another show that got the current season cut short by the pandemic. Usually they run, I think it's 10 episodes on The Good Fight, and they only got through like 7 or 8 before having to shut down. So sort of a truncated 4th season, but the 5th season, you know, hopefully will be a full one. And that's one of my favorite shows as well. Good Fight, Good Girls. I love both of them. And Delroy Lindo is not on it anymore. I think he's on this current season that's airing, but he is signed on to do another show, I think for ABC next year. So he's maybe going to be out of that. But you know, they're not killing his character or anything. The producers have left the door open for him to come back if he wants to. So that's a possibility as well. We also have a renewal for, A Little Late with Lily Singh. This was the first season for that. She took over for the Carson Daly Last Call slot in, I guess, October. I reviewed it here on my show. I thought it was okay. She leaned a little too much on the, like, I'm the only woman in late night. I'm the only, you know, person of color in late night. I'm a bisexual. You know, she really laid on her her differences really thick in that first week, but that's all I watched, so you know, I would hope she's sort of leaned back on that. But also, look, you know, she wasn't a known interviewer that first week either, so I always kind of give a little leeway for things like talk shows and variety shows to kind of really find their footing after that first week or two. So But the ratings, I guess, are there for her. They're about on par with what the Carson Daly ratings were, but her thing is she's gotten tons of social media attention and rewatches on YouTube and Hulu and all of this. So she's getting her presence out there more than most of the shows that have come before her. So that's good. Also, HLN has renewed Forensic Files 2. I'm not sure what the difference is between this and the regular Forensic Files, other than Forensic Files, I guess, was canceled. So then they brought this in as sort of a sequel to it. But it's, as far as I can tell, kind of the same thing. But I don't watch these forensic shows, so I don't know. But, this is one of those half-hour shows where they really delve into a mystery every single week and find new things. So that is renewed on HLN. Fox has officially renewed Bob's Burgers Season 11. I don't think that was really up in the air, but for some reason they didn't make the announcement until this week. But Bob's Burgers is coming back for Season 11. And that's something, I mean, the writers and the animators have already been working on Season 11, because a lot of those shows on Fox need months of preparation, which will bode well for them in the fall. We've talked about this before, that because Family Guy and Simpsons and Bob's Burgers need so long to, draw and be completed, that they've been working on those episodes for months and months before the pandemic even happened. So they will all be ready to go on Fox in the fall, which is kind of nice. Other than that, what else? Dave renewed for Season 2 on FXX. I gave this show a very middling grade. It was like a C or a C+ when I reviewed it, but it's one of the shows from this season that I've actually thought about after the fact and been like, I kind of do want to finish that season off, It had potential. I don't know, I just found it a little bit annoying, and I found him annoying, but I don't know, it's one that I keep thinking back about. Like, of all the ones I've given sort of that middling grade to, it's certainly on the higher end of things I want to rewatch and finish the season out. So I don't know, maybe it got better, but it is getting decent enough ratings that is going to be on for Season 2. Okay, so what has been canceled? The Purge and Treadstone are out at USA. Treadstone I reviewed I think it started in January, and that's based on like the Bourne type books. It's from the same novel, and it's in the same universe. I feel like I gave that like a fairly like a slightly above average grade, like maybe a B-, C+, somewhere in there. The Purge I never actually got to watch. That was in, I think, Season 3. But that started long before I was doing this weekly show. So I've seen all the Purge movies, but I never saw the show. But I guess, I know the first season it had some buzz around it, but I guess that sort of died over the years. So those are both out at USA. USA sort of dropping a lot of their scripted programming lately in favor of things like Chris Lee Knows Best, the reality types shows. So, I guess if that's working for them, then more power. But they still have, I think, 4 or 5 scripted shows on. And then Mythic Quest, this is off of the renewals and cancellations, but in terms of pandemic stuff, Mythic Quest on Apple TV Plus, which I gave a very positive review to. This is the Rob McElhenney show about the inner workings of a video game company, and this huge game on their plate called Mythic Quest Raven's Banquet. So they're going to do a social distancing episode that will air May 22nd, sort of a one-off between Season 1 and 2. It's already been renewed for Season 2, so that will be happening at some point, but this is, between the 2 seasons, sort of a one-off episode. And with that, I was looking at some of the ratings for a lot of the recent social distancing stuff, and basically everything's really kind of tapered off with that. In March, we sort of had a peak because for the first few weeks, everybody was in lockdown and nobody was leaving their house. They were looking for things to do. So TV viewing on the whole, especially for like same-day viewing, was just through the roof. Some shows getting their highest ratings in years. But that has just sort of, I think the novelty of that has worn off, and a lot of the more recent things that are, especially things that have moved into social distancing, like American Idol for their live shows and The Voice for their live shows, those are all social distancing shows now. And like the Disney Sing-Along, ABC did that a few weeks ago to very high ratings, and then they did like a Mother's Day special last week, and it got about half of the ratings. So, you know, the novelty of these things is sort of wearing off. I mean, I know the Parks and Rec reunion did pretty well, and some of the telethons have done okay, but, you know, something like Mythic Quest doesn't really live or die by the ratings because it's on a streaming service. So, you know, if Apple TV is happy with the response it gets over the first week or month or however they figure out their metrics, I'm sure they'll be happy with it. Plus, it's already been renewed, so it's sort of just an extra bonus, you know, a gift to the fans, really. But speaking of ratings, one thing that did stick out to me recently, Survivor had its season finale this last week, and I haven't watched Survivor in probably 15 years. I used to be, like, all in on it. The first few seasons. I was like, oh yeah, I could tell you, like, all the people that were in the first couple of years. But the finale for this, which is season... Well, they do 2, like, quote-unquote seasons a year, so I think it's season 40 or 42 or something. But really, it's, like, cycle 40. But it's gotten their best finale ratings in 4 years. So, you know, there are still shows that are benefiting from people being home. And something like Survivor, where you kind of get attached to some of the characters and stuff and want to see how it plays out, that does make sense. And from what I understand from the couple people on my Facebook that follow Survivor, posted that they really thought it was a good ending and the right person won and all that. So that always helps too when there's somebody that you're actually rooting for as the audience. What else? Oh, and Room 104 is ending with Season 4 on HBO. So they've announced that there will be a Season 4, but it will be the last. And I've never seen this show. I don't really know much about it, but it's from the Duplass brothers, Mark and Jay. And I've seen a lot of their, like, more film projects than TV projects, but I typically like the stuff that they do. They're a little off the wall, but not quirky for quirk's sake. You know, they sort of ground things in reality, but they have a very sharp wit about them. So, you know, I know the one of them played the son on, I think it was Transparent, and then Mark Duplass has been in a bunch of different movies, and he's played a variety of characters and different things. So I might check that out because I do like those guys. So now that it's ending, maybe I'll binge, you know, all 4 seasons of Room 104. And then for this week in reboots, we have a few for you, actually. I think the highest profile one is going to be the new Star Trek show. CBS All Access just keeps cranking out the Star Trek shows. And, you know, look, it makes sense. It's their bread and butter. Other than The Good Fight, I don't know anybody that really even watches any of the original content on CBS All Access except for the Star Trek shows. Picard, obviously, did very well for them. There's an animated show coming. But now we're going to have Spock and Pike getting their own sort of spin-off series from Discovery, and it's the people on Discovery that are playing them. Rebecca Romaine is also going to be on board, reprising her role from Discovery, and that is going to be called Strange New Worlds. Star Trek Strange New Worlds. So I don't know much about any of these spin-offs. I watched the first episode of Picard, which I really liked, but other than that, I don't anymore have CBS All Access. I think I'm going to get it again. Me and my brother talked about getting it for my dad for Father's Day, so we may just, as a family, all kind of share that account, so I'll have access to some of that stuff from there. There's also a great comedy show, by the way, on CBS All Access called No Activity, and it doesn't get any buzz, but it just entered season 3, I believe, and Tim Meadows stars in it. I'm not sure if she's still on, but for a little while. Oh, what's her face that played Jerry on Strangers with Candy? I can picture her face. I can't think of her name, but she was on it for at least the first season. I don't know if she came back for season 2, but it's a really, really funny show, and they've gotten some cool guest stars as well. So I feel like it's maybe more of like a hip industry thing. Like, it reminds me of like Party Down. Like, Party Down had this great pedigree, and people loved it and kind of talked about it, but then it sort of just, it never got any ratings, and sort of like Schitt's Creek, I guess, until it went on Netflix. Like, Schitt's Creek was such an underground show for the first 4 years, and then all of a sudden it went on Netflix and exploded while they were airing the reruns. But in addition to that, we have the Head of the Class reboot. Now, look, I loved Head of the Class as a kid. That was on when I was in the perfect age group for it. I was like probably about 10, 11 when it first aired, and it was on ABC on either Tuesdays or Wednesdays. It was like right with, you know, like Wonder Years and Doogie Howser and Growing Pains and Head of the Class, you know, and it was a funny show. Howard Hessman was great on it, and one of the guys on it became sort of the go-to for Nickelodeon production, or maybe it was Disney Channel productions, but, you know, a lot of the kids shows that have come out over the last 20 years are because of this one dude that acted in the Head of the Class show. But they're going to reboot that, and it's interesting because they're going to go multi-camera with it, which is, you know, with the studio audience / laugh track, depending on how they do it. And the original was like that as well. But it's interesting because I don't know, HBO Max doesn't really seem like the type of venue for that, just because no show on HBO has been a laugh track or multi-camera show, even going back to Dream On and Larry Sanders, and as far as I can remember, every show on HBO has been single camera, whether it's comedy or drama. So I think it's an odd choice, but they are sort of helping to launch their HBO Max with Friends, and I think Big Bang Theory is going to be on there as well. And so obviously both of those are multi-camera sitcoms, so maybe it sort of is going with the territory there. And then the other thing I saw, Disney Plus at it again with rebooting movies into TV shows. We've talked for weeks now about Turner and Hooch, and The Sandlot's going to be one, and The Mighty Ducks is going to be one. Well, now they're going to do one for Percy Jackson, which was, of course, a book series before it was a movie, but they're putting it a little closer, they said, to the book age-wise than the movie, because the movie, Logan Lerman played Percy Jackson, and he was like 16 in the first movie, and the actor was probably older, but the character was 16. In the books, he's apparently like 12. So, which makes sense for Disney Plus's brand. You know, they're going to skew a little younger, but I guess the series is going to be more going towards the book. So really, maybe it's more of a book reboot than a movie reboot. But either way, at some point we may have a Percy Jackson TV show on Disney Plus. So that is the news for this week. A lot of stuff to take in. And believe me, I'll keep up with you know, the networks that are announcing their fall schedules and stuff. So you know, I can list those off to you. But let's move into our reviews. Like I said, I have 5 for you, and I try to keep these shows under about 45 minutes. So let's try and breeze through these, and some of them actually will be a bit of a breeze to go through. And the first one is Celebrity Watch Party. This is a social distancing show on Fox. We were just kind of talking about how a lot of the social distance stuff is dwindling down in the ratings because people are sort of sick of it already, or they're now finding other things to do with their family now that they're in, you know, almost month 3 of the shutdown. But of course the networks are struggling to look for shows and content that they can produce brand new even in the social distancing era. So Fox is taking the idea of this British show called Gogglebox and bringing it to America, and it's basically a bunch of celebrities from their houses watching shows kind of with you and recapping them. And so it's an hour-long show, and I think from what I read it's going to be some different celebrities, like sort of mixing in and out. So sometimes it'll be, you know, some of the same, and other will be new, but then, you know, it's never going to be the same exact group every week. That's just what I read. But this one included like Ozzy, Sharon, and Kelly Osbourne, Joe Buck and his wife, Robert Herjavec from Shark Tank and his wife, Raven Simone, and I don't know who those 2 people were, her brothers maybe, Tyra Banks and her mom, Steve Wozniak and his wife. So it's just all, you know, groups of 2 or 3 watching TV and commenting on it, and they go through the different shows, and they did The Masked Singer first, which makes sense because it's on Fox. But then they also branched out and did like a Disney Plus nature movie about elephants, which actually I do want to watch and review. They did the CBS showing of Indiana Jones. They did Dr. Pimple Popper. And it's sort of, I hoped it would be sort of like VH1 when they used to do a lot of those talking head type shows like I Love the 80s and Best Week Ever. You know, Best Week Ever is was basically this, I guess, except it was comedians commenting on things, not necessarily watching them. But you had, like, people saying, you know, in Indiana Jones, people commenting, and what Rob Lowe and his boys were watching, and you know, it was just like, I don't know, it was like people commenting on what we're watching, and it was so boring, and the comments weren't very funny. And at one point, I think during Indiana Jones, they went to the Osborne house, and Kelly was literally just like looking at her phone and texting, like she wasn't even paying attention to whatever they were watching. And also, I don't know how authentic this is, but the people sometimes didn't seem to know what things were. Like for Masked Singer, you know, a lot of the people watching it on the Celebrity Watch Party were like, oh, I don't know what this show is about. Like, I think, you know, they make guesses to what the show is. It's like, first of all, have you never even heard of The Masked Singer? So I don't know if, like, Fox told them, like, oh, say real dumb things, or I don't know, but none of it worked. It wasn't funny. It wasn't interesting. It made me very angry, to be honest, and it also kind of made me feel a little bit alone. These people all have nice family members to watch shows with, not me. Like, I'm just here hanging out by myself during the quarantine like a big loser, you know, like, and that's how it kind of made me feel. And I don't really feel that way, but, because I watch TV by myself all the time, but it just didn't work. And then the best part was, some of it wasn't even shows. They started, like, riffing on the news. There was a thing about, because it was the week that Kim Jong-un might be dead or whatever, so then they were, like, riffing about that, and then they were talking about the economic shutdown or the protests or something, and, like, Ozzy Osbourne's commenting on it. It's like, dude, if I want the comments of the Osbourne family, I'll watch The Talk, you know, about news. It was just, none of this worked. It made me more annoyed the more they went on. I don't care what Robert Herjavec thinks of the Elephants documentary. Like, it was stupid. And I like some of these celebrities. Some of them I could take or leave, and some of them I actively really don't like. But it was just so weird. And I get that Fox is trying to produce some new content for us, and maybe this will be interesting, and I guess it works as the show Gogglebox in the UK, but this was a dud all the way around. I give Celebrity Watch Party an F. There was just nothing good about it. Just watch TV on your own and have your own thoughts, you know. It did not make me feel like I was hanging with the celebrities. I think that was, like, kind of what they wanted you to feel, but I did not feel that way. So let's go over to HBO for a mini-series called I Know This Much Is True, and they've only aired one so far, and the next one will be on tonight. So I only watched the first episode of this, but it looks like there's going to be 6 total, so we're going to go into the middle of June with this. It's based on the same named novel from 1998, and it stars Mark Ruffalo as himself and as his twin. He is, you know, both Dominic and Thomas Birdsey, and it's a very intense show. This show, first of all, it's interesting because Mark Ruffalo put on he shot all of the One Brother scenes for the whole season, or I guess it's just one season, but the whole miniseries, and then put on 20 pounds and shot all of the other scenes for the other characters. So what's interesting about that, I guess, is it really does get a person in that mindset of, okay, you know, for 2 months now as we're shooting this character, I'm going to be, you know, in this sort of mindset. But essentially, he is now, you know, Mark Ruffalo's age, so we see some opening shots and scenes from the 70s, and now we're up to, you know, the present day, and basically, so Dominic is the more grounded one, I guess, but he's got this very, very troubled relationship with his twin, Thomas, who is a paranoid schizophrenic, and he's in an asylum, and Dominic is desperately trying to get him out of this asylum, but at the same time, he's got a whole host of his own issues to deal with. Juliette Lewis plays this caseworker called Nedra Frank, and he goes and has, you know, a date with her, and then things get kind of hot and heavy a little bit, and then she, you know, accuses him of sexual harassment and assault and all this stuff, which we as the audience are like, wait, like that didn't happen, like we didn't see that. So it's like he's got his own set of issues, and Melissa Leo plays the mother, and we see in, I guess maybe it's the opening scene, we see the one twin that's in the asylum, Thomas, going to the local library and literally sawing his own arm off at age 20, and you know, we see that in a flashback, and it's like the whole show is just so intense. But boy, you know, Mark Ruffalo, I always kind of liked him. I always thought, you know, he's a pretty solid actor, competent actor. He can do a few different things, because, you know, for a little while he did some rom-coms. He did 13 going on 30, and he did Just Like Heaven, and then of course his work with the Avengers and stuff. But the real big deal for me was Spotlight in terms of Ruffalo's acting chops. You know, it's sort of, I don't know, it's sort of made fun of a little bit in the, you know, the TV or the movie community, and you know, some of the Facebook groups I follow always sort of mention his freak out in Spotlight, you know, the whole "they knew" scene. But it really does showcase his great dramatic chops, and they're on display here, full force. He is really great as both of these, and it's not just the weight that he put on. It's not just that the one has facial hair and the other one doesn't, and he really does embody two completely different people with these characters, and especially, you know, the one is more grounded in reality, certainly, and the other one's schizophrenic, but they both have such separate issues, you know. And it's funny, I just finished Dead to Me Season 2. I don't do spoilers on this show, but my friend Melissa and I just did an entire Season 2 review of Dead to Me episode by episode, and if you have watched the season, then you'll know why I thought of that while I'm talking about Mark Ruffalo playing two different characters. But you know what, I don't do spoilers here, so I guess we'll forget that. But anyway, it is not easy. The point is, it's not easy for someone to play their twin in a completely different manner. I mean, a lot of the sitcom-y stuff that we've seen over the years, you know, Phoebe and Ursula on Friends, or even Patty Duke back in the day, or you know, Steve Urkel and Stefan Urkel from Family Matters. I mean, a lot of those are basically just sort of the same character, but with a French accent, or, oh, you know, this one's messy and this one's neat, you know. But these are two very different characters, and they've both been through a lot that we only, I think, scratched the surface of in this first episode. I think this is a very well done show, but it's one of those that's like just such a hard watch. It's a real downer. Do not watch it if you're at all not in the best frame of mind or in the best mood or having anxiety or depression issues yourself. Like, it's well done and it's good, but it is so heavy. Even where they're trying to make it a little bit lighter with the Juliette Lewis character, and they're having like a little flirtatious moment, it's like then it turns on the dime to this whole like you sexually assaulted me thing. It's intense. I'm gonna leave. I know this much is true with a B+. And you know, quality wise it might be higher than that, but man, it's such a hard watch. You sort of leave it with like an kind of an icky feeling, and I don't know, maybe at the end of the 6 episodes things get resolved and so you're left with maybe a more positive feeling, I don't know, but that first episode is very, very intense on that. So up next, we're going to talk about The Eddy. This is over on Netflix, which means all the episodes are up. It is 8 episodes total, and it's set in Paris, and it is basically like a jazz music sort of show, I guess. Damien Chazelle, who brought jazz to the mainstream in recent years with La La Land, directs the first 2 episodes here, and the music all comes to us courtesy of Glenn Ballard and Randy Kerber. Glenn Ballard I know most from collaborating with Alanis Morissette on her Jagged Little Pill album, and now the Jagged Little Pill musical. And you know, he's been a great songwriter for a long time. I'm not really familiar with the other guy, Randy Kerber, but let's see what his deal is. Well, he's nominated for an Oscar for the Color Purple song, and he did a great Over the Rainbow arrangement from Barbra Streisand. He played on Tears in Heaven, which is a nominated song as well. So, all right, so he's got a good pedigree as well. So I can't fault that. But I don't really know any of these people. Andre Holland is the star. He plays the owner of this club, and he's a piano player himself and a father of one of the other characters. And Amanda Stenberg shows up here. She's a great up-and-coming actress. We've seen her in many things, including The Hate U Give. But she plays Julie, who is the daughter, and they're sort of reconnecting. They're very estranged and reconnecting. And basically, I mean, the plot... I watched the first 2 episodes of this. I wanted to give it the whole Damien Chazelle sort of overlay. So I watched both of the first 2 episodes, and you know, where La La Land was a lot more whimsical and, I don't know, hopeful maybe, I guess, because they're both sort of struggling to make things work. The Eddy is sort of more on the back end of that. You know, this guy was already a successful musician, and he's, you know, he owns this club now in Paris, right in the heart of Paris, that is going through some changes, and he's having some issues as well. You know, keeping it afloat, keeping his personal life afloat, and keeping, you know, girlfriends and the daughter that he's sort of trying to reconnect with, and everything's sort of maybe not falling apart necessarily, but his life is very chaotic right now. And so there is some good music here. There's certainly some very interesting cinematography and production. Like, here's the thing that is most striking about this show is that it is shot like a movie. It's not shot like any show I've ever seen before. Certainly not an episodic show. Maybe a miniseries, you know, TV movie, sure. But this is very, very much shot like a film. From the look of it, to the lenses that they're using in the cameras, to the lighting, to just everything makes it look very, very film quality. And that's not to say, I mean, look, a lot of TV shows, especially on Netflix and a lot of the streamers and HBO, do have that more high quality look to them, you could say. But just the way this is shot, it is really something to look at. But here's the problem. Nothing's all that interesting. And I hate to say it, because I like Damien Chazelle. I love La La Land. I loved Whiplash. You know, I think this guy... And look, it's not his show necessarily. He just directed the first 2 episodes. But if anybody could do something with this material, it would be him. And I think he did. I think he did the most you can expect from a director of his caliber. He made this look like a feature film. But the problem is, I just didn't really identify very much with any of the characters. I didn't think any of the characters were all that interesting. You know, La La Land was... I hate to keep comparing it to that, but that's, you know, the other Damien Chazelle jazzy type thing. It's like a jazz record itself, like the difference between the two, because La La Land is sort of like all over the place, and oh, you know, what notes are we missing, and you know, bebopping and scatting kind of thing. And the Eddy is more like, well, we've already had our great performance, and we already have our notes, you know. The Eddy is almost like the last scene of La La Land, if you've seen that. Like, it's sort of on the downswing, and it's very low tempo, and you know, I'm not going to beat the metaphor any more than that, but the point is, it was just bland. Like, it left me very, very bored. You know, I know this much is true, was not easy to watch, but Mark Ruffalo was so good, and everything was so good. This, other than the cinematography and the production value, there's just not much to it, you know. These are characters that I found boring. I didn't think the acting was very compelling. and of a lot of the shows that I watch that I don't like, at least I'm not necessarily bored by them for the most part. But this was just very, very dull, I thought, for what they were going for. So unfortunately, I can't give this one too positive of a grade. I leave the Eddy with a D+. I think it looks like nothing else out there, but they needed to do something with that script to hold my interest, that's for sure. So up next, we're going to talk about Reno 911, the reboot. I've said this before on the show. Other than my original Is Quibi Worth It review, I didn't know if I was going to really review Quibi shows on here. And I still haven't really, you know, even when I did my Is Quibi Worth It, I didn't give any of the individual shows a grade. I just watched like 40 shows and then kind of talked about them. But Quibi, I don't know what to make of Quibi, because all the shows are 7 minutes long and all of that kind of thing. And Jeffrey Katzenberg, the creator of it, has already said in an interview that he, you know, thinks it's sort of a failure because of the quarantine and nobody's out and about on their, you know, on their commutes to work anymore, which is sort of what this was designed for. I think that's a little bit off the mark. I mean, I think part of the problem is you can't watch these things on your TV or on your computer. You have to watch Quibi on your phone, which is annoying. But look, Reno 911 was rebooted for this format. And I was never a huge Reno 911 fan. This came out at a time that I wasn't watching a ton of cable. I mean, I watched The Daily Show, I watched South Park, but as far as Comedy Central, that was probably about it. But I've seen plenty of clips of the show, and I like a lot of the people in it. I mean, they've all gone to, you know, on to do many things. You know, Thomas Lennon I see pop up all the time, and Niecy Nash, of course. I'm a big fan of hers, and Wendy McLennan-Covey, who's the mom on the Goldbergs. So, you know, many of these people have gone on to do great things. You know, Cedric Yarborough went on to do Speechless. But I don't know if I've ever actually watched a full episode of Reno 911. I've just seen a lot of the clips of it. But I watched 3 Quibi episodes, which is the equivalent of about a half-hour show, because I think they were all like either 6 or 7 minutes. So it was about 20, 21 minutes that I watched, and each one sort of starts with a little, you know, blip of an opening, a little joke, like you'll get on shows. Sometimes that lasts like a minute or 90 seconds, and then there's sort of the main plot, and then in 2 of the 3 episodes it ended with like a fake commercial. One was like a recruiting ad. Actually, maybe they were both recruiting ads, come to think of it. But look, everybody still has all of their chops. You know, it's like kind of like when Curb Your Enthusiasm goes off for 4 years and then comes back with a new season. Everybody's still completely game. And this is very much in the spirit of Curb Your Enthusiasm, because there's no script. You know, they go on and they say, okay, here's the setup, here's the character you're playing, go. And it goes from there. And you know, some of the guest stars that you would come to expect from Reno 911 are here. It's hard to tell who they are sometimes with the damn Quibi, because you're watching it on such a small screen. But but you know, Reno 911 seems like the type of show that was kind of made for Quibi, because you don't want these scenes to go on too long. And in fact, on all 3 of these episodes, I was just like, oh, that's it. Like, it seemed like I had only been watching it for 3 or 4 minutes, because it was very funny, and you know, I was just getting into the storyline when they called it, you know, for the episode. If you like Reno 911, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised here. Is it worth getting Quibi just to watch it? No, I wouldn't think so. I do wonder, though, if Quibi goes under, where do all these shows go? You know, like, are we going to have somewhere else to watch, you know, these Reno 911 reboot shows, or, you know, some of the movies that they've been throwing us in installments? I don't know. But that's obviously a discussion for another time. I think everybody's still on their A game here. I thought this was, you know, this is very funny, and it is, you know, seemingly made for Quibi. I think all the episodes are now up. They put 3 up the first day, and then 1 each weekday for the next, like, week and a half. And there's only 12 episodes in the season, so I think all the episodes are up already, so you can easily binge them. It would probably only take about an hour and a half with how Quibi works, which is another thing. Like, that's not really, to me, a full TV season. In an hour and a half, that's small. But whatever. But no, I liked it. I just wish it wasn't on Quibi. So I leave the Reno 911 reboot with a B+. Finally, we've got something on Adult Swim, which I've reviewed a couple things on Adult Swim before. I don't necessarily watch Adult Swim all that much, but whenever there's something I find intriguing, I'll give it a go, at least to review it here. This one is called J.J. Villard's, or Villard, I don't know, Villard's Fairy Tales. And who is J.J. Villard? Well, he has created this show called King Star King and Chestnut's Ice Lolly as well, which I think both aired on Adult Swim, or maybe the King Star King still does. But this is, you know, a sort of horror fairy tale sort of thing. The first episode is the only one that was available to me at the time. This is another one of these, like, 12-minute shows or whatever that they do in 15-minute installments on Adult Swim. So with commercials, it's like 11 or 12 minutes. And this one was about Rapunzel. It was called Boypunzel, and it basically takes the Rapunzel story but makes it, you know, sort of gender reverses it and makes it a boy with really long flowing hair. And it's weird. This is a weird one. You know, like most Adult Swim shows, I'm probably not the target demo for this because I'm not a huge stoner that is looking for weird stoner shows at 1 in the morning. I mean, I am up at 1 in the morning, but I'm usually watching like Conan and O'Brien or something. So I don't think I'm the target audience for this, but I did get a few laughs from it. I thought it was actually pretty funny. It's got that Adult Swim sort of trippy look about it, though. You know, the animation is very sort of surreal and trippy, and the things that happen are very surreal and trippy. Like, you know, the Wicked Witch turns Boypunzel's real parents into watermelons. You know, so that kind of thing. And then there's a ton of gross out humor. Like, he gets his sustenance from eating the blackheads off of the Wicked Witch. Like, she'll pop her blackhead into his mouth. Like, it's gross. And this is the thing. This is why I'm torn about this show, because I did think it was kind of funny, and I thought some of the touches were very good. Like, in his room in the tower, he had one of those little play mats that kids have where it's like a town and like the roads and stuff intersect, and it's like you see it in so many little kids' rooms. I thought that was a really nice touch. I thought that was funny. Then there's this girl in the wheelchair that comes up and starts bitching to him because the tower doesn't have a wheelchair ramp. You know, and so I thought that was very funny. So there were some funny elements in the show, but you can't have a show that is just so about pushing the envelope and grossing people out. Like, I felt like this J.J. Villard or whoever else was working on this show just was like in a room and saying like, okay, what's the grossest thing we can come up with, and then let's double that. Oh, but what if it's like not funny? What if it's just gross and stupid? And oh, well, that's fine. Like, gross out humor is humor. It's not really. Like, you have to be clever about it. I don't know. So I think if you like a lot of the Adult Swim shows, I feel like this is probably on the upper end maybe of those. Because it is pretty funny. It's definitely got some wit to it. But I would say like 75 to 80% of it is this gross out humor, and it's trying way too hard to do it, you know. Like early days of South Park, but not funny, you know. Like, there was definitely some episodes in the early days of South Park that I was like, they're just trying a little too hard on this, you know, kind of until the characters were established, you know. But you could certainly go worse for a horror sort of spoof of some of the classic fairy tales. So I am assuming they'll just do a different fairy tale in each episode. I thought it was okay. I think I'm going to leave J.J. Villard's Fairy Tales with a C+. So that's going to do it for the show. Next week we will have some more shows. I know there's quite a few that have been premiering lately that I haven't been able to get to yet. Snowpiercer is one that I want to get to because that's been in the works for years to make that film into a TV show, and they finally did it. And I think the first episode aired the other day. So I will check that out for you, and some of the other shows that are on. But yeah, not a super great week. The HBO show was really good, but man, was it depressing. So that was probably the best of the crop. But thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you back here next time. Bye.